Today we're going to be making our own API using Node.js Express and MongoDB. So imagine your favorite API and you can get an API key as well as credits, and every time you use it you will lose some credits and you'll need to buy more. So cool, now I'm just installing a bunch of packages. So Express, Mongo.env, cores, UUID, JSON Web Token, bcrypt, and NodeBomb. So now after that I'm just going to create an index.js in the root directory and also the models folder where we will have all our Mongo models. Cool, next I will create another folder and I'll be calling this routes. And we also need middleware, so I'm going to go create that folder. And lastly we need one more thing, so we need to store our .envs. So we'll create that, and in there I'll have the port Mongo 5000, and we'll also have the Mongo URI. Cool, so for this we'll get it from Mongo itself, and if you don't have an account or you're not logged in, go ahead and do that first. And once you do that, in the dashboard you'll see something like this. Click connect, that's somewhere in the middle. After that, let's go to MongoDB for VS Code since that's what I'm using, and we just need to copy step number 3 there. So I'm not going to show my whole URI, but when you get it, you just need to replace the password with your own password. Cool, lastly we just need a secret key, and I just put something random for now. Nice, so now that we have our Mongo, we can go ahead and build our server. So I'll just start by importing a couple of things that we'll be needing in this file. First thing is, of course, .env, so we can actually pull from our .env. So require .env and then .config. Next, we'll be importing Express, so const express is equal to require express. The third thing will be Mongo, so we'll do const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. Cool, now the last thing we want to import is cores, so const cores is equal to require cores. Alright, now let's start setting up the app, so const app is equal to express. Next we want to do app.use, and we'll be using express.json. After that we'll also be using cores, so app.use cores. Let's also get the port, so const port is equal to process.env.port. In case that's not available, we will just default it to 5000. Let's also set up Mongo, so we'll do mongoose.connect, and we will initialize it with the Mongo URI from a .env, and then after that it will be a callback, so .then. For now we'll just do a console log, and we'll say MongoDB is connected. We'll also do a .catch in case there's an error, and we'll log that as well. Perfect, now we'll just set up the route for just our home directory. We'll do app.get and slash, and we'll just do res.send. We'll do a res.send saying welcome to my API. Now lastly we'll just do app.listen, and the first argument will be the port. Second will be the callback, which is we'll do a console.log saying server is running on port 5000. Cool, now just to make sure everything's running, I'll just start up the server, so node index.js. And alright, looks like we can see the server is running as well as Mongo is connected. Next we'll be working on the user models, so let's create a file, call it user.js. Now in the file, first we need to actually import mongoose, so we'll do const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. The next thing we'll be importing is UUID, so we'll get that from our package UUID. Now we can go ahead and create the user schema, so for that we'll do new mongoose.schema. Let's start with name, give it a type of string, then we'll do email. For email, we just want to make sure that it's unique, so unique true. The next field will be password, so we want to make this a string. And lastly, let's just create the API key, so type string. And we also want to default it to the unique UUID that we'll be getting. Now that we have our user schema, let's just export it. So we'll do module.exports is equal to mongoose.model, first argument user, second argument the user schema object. We're done with the user file for now, so let's create our new route, call it auth.js. We'll start off by importing Express, so const express equal to require express. After express, we'll also import bcrypt, so const bcrypt equals require bcrypt.js. So third, we're going to import user from our model/user. After that, we'll just set up our routers, const router equals to express.router, and we'll initialize that. After that, we'll create a new route, so router.post. This is going to be a post route, to be the /register, so the user can register with their name, email, and password. So from request.body, we're going to extract the name, email, and password. Then we'll look for the user, so user.find1, and we'll search by the email. If we do find a user, we will return a status of 400, meaning that it's a bad request, and we'll send a message, something like user already exists. Now if the user doesn't exist, we'll do a couple things. First, we're going to use bcrypt to salt it using 10 characters. After that, we'll use bcrypt again to hash the password using the salt we just created above. Now with the hash password, we're actually going to create the user in Mongo. So user is equal to new user, and then we'll pass the field. So name, email, password, which will be the hashed password. Cool. Now we just need to await it, and we'll do user.save. Now after that, we'll just do a res.json with the message of user registered successfully. We'll also be sending the API key that we'll be getting from the user model. Alright, now let's go back to index.js and let's import our auth. Alright, now to use it, we'll do app.use and we'll specify the path. So /API/auth, then we'll put in the auth routes. Alright, now let's switch to the fun part where we can actually test our routes. So I'll be using Postman. To get started, let's test out the post route. So we'll do localhost 5000 /API/auth/register. And here I'm doing a body of raw, and in there I'll be doing name, John, email, john@gmail.com. And let's also give it a password of 123456. And once we send it, we actually get a response of 200. So that's great. And in the body, we have the message as well as the API key. Perfect. Next, we'll be creating our middleware. So the first one will be auth.js. Let's start by importing the user model. So we're going to create the API key auth, and in here we'll try to pull the API key from request.header, and that will be the X API key. Now, if there's no API key, we'll return the status of 401. 401 means that the person is unauthorized, and then we'll send a message of no API key provided. Looks like I had a typo, so I'll just go ahead and fix that. Next, we'll look for the user in Mongo based on the API key. If there's no user, we'll just return a status of 403 with a message of invalid API key. And then finally, we'll just replace the request.user with the user that we find from Mongo, and then we'll just call the next function. Finally, we'll just export API key auth. Now let's create another route. Let's call it data.js. Same thing as the other files. Let's import Express. Then we'll be importing API key auth. Let's also bring in the router, so express.router. So now let's create our /data get endpoint. We'll also add the middleware API key auth. And if the user passes the middleware, we'll just let them know, welcome to the protected API. And I'll also be sending the user's name. And lastly, we'll just export this router. Now back in our index.js, we'll just import the data routes. And then after that, we'll do app.use, and we'll use it for our /API route. Alright, now let's go back to Postman and let's test it. First, we're going to register a new user, and we're going to get our API key. Looks like that worked. So let's just copy our API key. And then we'll just add an API key as the key of X API key. Value is the key. And then we'll do a GET request to our /API/data. And perfect, we get welcome to the protected API as well as the user. And let's just check again with another user. And it looks like we are getting a different API key, so that's working as well. Just to confirm again, we will be doing the X API key and then this new API key. Perfect, we are getting the new username as well, so that is working. Now let's go back to the user models. We'll just add in this new field called credits, and we'll be defaulting to 100. So the idea here is every time you make a call, it costs some credits. All right, now in the auth.js, we just want to check whether the user has less than 0 credits. If the user does not have sufficient credits, then we'll send a res.status of 402 with the message of insufficient credits. If we don't get to the ifs, then we'll just remove 10 credits every time they make a call, and we'll save the user. All right, now back in the auth, when we create the new user, we want to default and make the credits to be 100 here. Lastly, we'll be creating another route. So this will be the /usage route. And here the user can check what their usage is. So return the message of API usage details and then the credits of remaining credits. All right, and then we'll just restart our server. Cool, now let's register a new user. And then let's grab the API key. Let's set that up in the headers, and we'll simulate getting data, just meaning we're using credits to get some sort of data. All right, that's working. And then now we'll be testing the /usage route. So I did it twice here, and I can see that my credits are now at 80. Congrats, now we've just built our own API with some credits in there. And next steps is you can add more features, update the routes, deploy the backend, and have some fun. Lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what are you building? Also, what other videos would you like to see? And I'll make them. Thank you, and happy coding.